Hey there, welcome to the REI Conversion Podcast, where each episode we discuss strategies and digital tools to help you launch, automate, and scale your real estate investing business. Learn how to run your investing business remotely, find out ways to automate your business to better utilize your time, and learn what other successful investors are implementing so you can get to the next step closer to your investing goals. And I'm your host and founder of REI Conversion, Jesse Kwong. This episode of REI Conversion Podcast is brought to you by Pebble, a simple and powerful app that allows you to automate and track your entire land investing. It's an app that simply allows you to centralize and streamline your entire deal flow for land investing, with features like our automated mailing system that sends out offers in smaller batches to steady out incoming seller leads, to our documents generator allowing you to generate letters, contracts, and deeds in seconds, and the ability to track and route all of your buyer and seller leads to a central place inside of Pebble. And not to mention full Zapier and REI conversion website integrations. You get back time to scale and build out your processes. With no setup fees, no setup time, simply create your free account today and get your first mailer out the door with Pebble in minutes. Head over to pebblerei.com, that's PEBBLEREI.com to start your free trial today. Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Jesse here from REI Conversion. Today, I've got somebody on the show with me, Clint of Learn Land, and we're going to be talking all about paid ads for Facebook and generating buyer leads. So I'm going to pop up this really cool little caption here. But before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that this show is brought to you by REI Conversion, of course. So if you don't already know, here at REI Conversion, we help you launch your land flipping and land flipping websites and house websites as well to drive more motivated seller leads and buyer leads and build your buyer list. These are basically beautifully designed websites that are flexible, strategic, and customizable, but because our sites are built on WordPress, we have the ability to do a lot of creative things. We know that everyone runs their business slightly different, and that's what's so awesome about WordPress. Like an iPhone or an Android phone, you can download different third-party apps, which make every phone different and unique. And you can do the exact same thing with your WordPress site. So if you've ever seen some fancy website, a huge chance that they're running on WordPress. And the beauty about WordPress, again, is that you can download these plugins that allow you to do all sorts of things, from having live chat pop-ups to including countdown timers on your site, or plugins to help you with your SEO. And over here at REI Conversion, we actually build our own plugin and features just for investors. So just for land investors and wholesalers as well. All right, let's get started. As you know, with this podcast, I like to jump right into it, get to the point. And today we have a Clint Turner here from Learn.land. Clint, you're on here with me. How's it going?
Shoot. Hey, Jesse, what's going on?
Good, good. I think your mic just cut off for a second, but I think you're good now. Awesome.
Yeah, we should be rolling.
Okay, so we're here to talk about something that you've been sort of, covering in your launches and your classes. And sorry if I'm getting the terminology wrong here, but it's all about Facebook paid ads to generate buyer leads. So first of all, why? This is probably a really broad question here. Why Facebook ads? Why paid ads?
Yeah, so for a little backstory first, I've seen this before. Basically, is like the summary of this. We see it with Craigslist. It got really challenging to advertise on there. Facebook Marketplace is getting consistently more challenging to advertise. And when you look at your land business, and for me, something that gives me the most stress and gave me the most stress for a long time was like, okay, I'm doing so much business on Facebook Marketplace. What happens when this stops? What happens when this, Craigslist-ifies itself? And Facebook has so many more data points, they can shut you down in an instant, and that can shut down, all of your traffic. Like for me, at one point, that would have killed my business, and so that stressed me out for a long time. It's always kind of kept me up at night, if you will. So for, I guess, the past year, personally, I have been experimenting and learning and taking courses and hiring people and figuring out how really you use social media advertising from the land, not from a land investing standard of view, but more just fundamentally how you use it correctly, because nobody has really been doing or teaching how you can use them for land. So yeah, it's been a lot of time kind of in the background trying to learn it. A lot of wasted ad dollars, or invested ad dollars, we could call them.
I totally
um,
get you on that. Yeah.
right. So, I think in simple, why I paid Facebook ads is because I think that Craigslist is, or Facebook is eventually going to turn into, for lack of better words, another Craigslist. And it's just going to be hard to get that volume of leads, especially if you're scaling your business. And so when you move to the platform that you're actually paying money for, and they want to keep you as a paying customer, all that kind of stuff, it just makes your life so much easier. It makes your business run a lot smoother. And so that's kind of the point of why, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think one of the beauty of running Facebook ads is it's very scalable too. Once you can, there's a lot of analytics and it allows you to scale, and it's measurable. So, but anyways, we'll dive into that. So tell me, are you simply just putting a piece of property and advertising that onto Facebook and paying for traffic like that?
Yes and no. So we're definitely running ads that are for properties. Once you get into Facebook, into the back end, and you learn it, there's a lot of different styles of ads you can run. But yeah, we are running ads for our properties, but it's a little more complicated than that, because if you think of a house investor, for example, that's the majority of kind of what all these different social media strategies for real estate investors have been built around, as wholesalers, house flippers, storage investors, like all these kind of people, right? Not for land investors though. And they have a very, like, they have it's lucky, really, they have the ability to say, my target market is in this city. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
my target market is in Colorado Springs because I'm selling a home in Colorado Springs. So it's a lot easier to advertise. You can geographically say, I want to advertise these people. For us, especially when it comes to trying to acquire property, our people are all over the place, right? They're not just they're definitely not where the property is. Sometimes they're in the big cities around, sometimes they're in the big cities all around the US, right? So it's hard to geographically pinpoint people. And so that's one challenge we run into. And the other one is that Facebook doesn't really search for land buyers specifically. They search for people who are interested in real estate, who are interested in houses, or maybe be looking for a house. That's probably one of their big categories, I'd bet. And so you kind of have to take a lot of what people are teaching and translate it back to like what we're doing as investors and how it works to us, right? So yes, we do post property ads. We run those with, ad dollars behind them. But I'm sure, which we'll talk about for the rest of the show, is there's a portion before that to find the right people, right?
Yeah. So let's jump right into that. I mean, let's talk about a very broad overview, step by step. How does that look like? What kind of ads are you setting up, and how do people actually, how are you actually generating leads that way?
Yeah, so this would be a very long, to go through every exact campaign, but let me kind of give you the tiered approach is kind of how I see it. So the first thing you got to realize is Facebook is an engagement platform. It's all they're about is engagement. How can they increase your engagement on their platform, i.e., how can they sell your attention to advertisers, right? To us. How can they sell your time to us? So Facebook's very engagement based. So everything that we're doing is like we have to have that in mind. So for example, one tactic we do to sort through the big hole of, let's say, people Facebook's identified who are interested in real estate, how we sort through them is one example is we create videos, right? So I'll create a minute to 2 minute video that I'm pretty confident only somebody who is seriously interested in buying land is going to watch, right? Somebody may watch it for 30 seconds, but then when I start talking about owner financing and I start talking about this and that, they're going to scroll, they're going to continue their day, right? But we're doing these videos very strategically, very on purpose to find that person, because Facebook allows its advertisers to say, hey, anybody who's engaging with your content, you can put them in what's called an audience, and then you can go back and you can retarget them later. And so that's been a big one for us
Got you.
because video views are by far the cheapest way to advertise on Facebook.
Hmm.
And so if you can simply, even if it's like if anybody goes to my website, they'll probably get caught in our funnel, and like you may see one of our ads pop up, they're not that great. Like, they're in the backyard. I have the iPhone, just walking around, recording different videos. And the beautiful thing is you can put 10 of them in there and Facebook will just decide which ones people are like better, right?
Yeah.
So kind of takes that struggle away for you. But video views and tracking who's watching them is a really good way to start building the audiences.
Right, right. So to sum it up, I mean, one of the key strategies that you're doing, I'm assuming, is from what you mentioned here, is you're creating a video, something very candid, and sometimes, actually, a lot of times, those kind of videos outperform a lot of polished
They
videos,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then, so you probably got a selfie going off, and you're talking about something that you're offering that is going to make sense for your land buyers,
Mhm.
and then you mentioned you're retargeting them. So what does retargeting actually mean then?
It means, again, so everything comes down to Facebook's based on engagement. They want to give you the opportunity to build an audience of interested people who engage with your content,
Yeah.
and then you want to be able to run ads to them. So retargeting is simply building an audience. That's what it's called inside of Facebook ads. You put all these people into an audience to say, hey, my audience has people who have watched this video, and this video, and this video, and this video X amount through, right? Because
Gotcha.
they can track that and give you access to it.
Hmm.
And then simply you say, hey, these ads I'm running, I'm going to run them to that audience, right? So that's
Gotcha.
retargeting. You did
Gotcha.
one thing, and I'm gonna show you now. I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna show you another, right? It's just your funnel. It's just
Yeah.
another step.
Right on. So, to break that down, you're simply, again, running one ad, a video ad that you may be want to promote something about your business, and then it's not about the land itself, I'm assuming. So it could be some kind of offering or something
Mhm.
that makes sense for them. Perhaps it could be a discount or whatever it might be.
We run a lot of content, like
Okay.
things that, like, let's say you were going to buy a house or a car or a boat,
Okay.
right? And like some things like the three biggest myths of buying a boat, right?
Got
That's
you.
gonna kind of get into your brain, like, oh, I'm looking to buy a boat. What are those myths, right?
Okay.
And so valuable content is what people, I think, this is an opinion, maybe it's backed up somewhere,
Mhm.
but I think when you provide somebody value, you provide them a valuable piece of content, it just kinda it kinda locks you in their brain, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
"Oh, they cleared that up for me. Let me go look at their website." And then
Right.
next time they see a property ad or they see an email or whatever it is, it just gives them one more chance, you know, one more reason to reach out or take a next step to do business with you.
Right. So you typically do content pieces rather than, say, something like a discount or whatever it might be, and retarget that audience. Is that correct?
All of these are great tactics. So again, Facebook engagement. I can create a PDF that's, you know, like, the three biggest myths to buying owner
Sure.
finance plan, or an ebook, or a discount, right?
Right.
You could run an ad about a discount. Hey, $500 off a property, and then you could simply target people who claim that discount. There's a way to do that within Facebook.
Right.
It's called custom conversions. You set a conversion up, you track it, and you say, I just want people who are registering this discount. Now I want to start showing them property ads. So
Yeah.
it's all about kind of the tiered approach.
And Facebook is awesome. It can you can break down a lot of different things. I mean, if, let's say, if you did a video view, right, you can retarget them. And by retargeting, like Clint said, you're simply, if somebody engaged with that video, if they watched it, say, 30 seconds, you can show them another ad in your funnel, and perhaps it might be a piece of property at that point in time, or it might be, get on my mailer list, or whatever that funnel might look like. But yeah, Facebook has got all these different options that you can really experiment, and they also make, if you want to get further and do some split testing, right, Clint?
Mhm.
You can do some split testing and see what works. Maybe like you said, what was that video you just talked about? Something about a boat. 3 tips on
Yeah,
owning
three
a,
myths of buying a boat or something like that,
yeah,
right?
versus, I don't know what it might be. Maybe it could be something totally different. And you want to run these tests to and see which one does better. But at the end of the day, Clint, I think the goal here is you're trying to build an audience, a more, I guess you could call it a warmed up audience, or a more highly targeted audience that is actually interested in land. So at that point, um, would you be retargeting with them, with new pieces of property, or are you going to target them to, do something else? What is the next step for you?
Yeah, so once you've built these audiences up, and again, this is why it takes time. And this is why I said, I did a big thing on the Facebook Pixel a while back in our Facebook group.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, look, even if you have no intention of doing any kind of Facebook advertising for in the near future, just go put this thing on your website
Yeah.
because it's going to let Facebook just start working for you. Just start building up a kind of lookalike is what we're going to call it, a lookalike audience of people who go to your website, right? What demographic are they? What are they interested in? All that kind of stuff. Facebook can do all that for you.
Yeah.
And so that's why the pixel is really important. But and before we move on, let's talk about the pixel for a second,
Yeah.
because you got to realize all this stuff here that we're talking about, the majority of it doesn't work without the pixel. So if we want to say, hey, people who are visiting my website, like you can even say people who are visiting my website multiple times a day, I want to show them ad. I want to focus more ad dollars. Like you can get really specific in this stuff,
Right.
but it all works with the pixel because the pixel is tracking where people are moving from. And
Right.
so that's an important like foundational piece there. Um, and your question was, what are we doing kind of after we get them in the audiences?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we run ads. I mean, we run a bunch of property ads. So any property that we have, we put it in a big campaign, and we have a bunch of different ad sets. So for a quick breakdown, Facebook runs it on three levels: campaign, ad set, and ad. Right.
Hmm.
And so you can basically set a bunch of different ad sets to go to different people. And so we'll set a big campaign that has all the property in it, and then we'll try a bunch of different things in our ad sets. We'll put different areas, different interests, different, different things that we can choose, because you are a bit limited, unfortunately, because we are in what's called a special ad category.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to, they don't, Facebook doesn't want us discriminating when it comes to housing and so on and so forth. And so we kind of just have to comply with that. And it limits some of the things that you can target based off of.
Mm.
For example, age, sex, race, things like that. But you still can do some interest-based targeting. And so, we'll play around. Facebook's all a game of playing around with different things. Um, and one of the biggest things we see that really influences leads coming through is our ad copy, honestly.
Mm.
It's just different pieces of ad copy and how Facebook algorithm treats it and how the audiences are treating it, right? It's all a game of like testing different things. But over time, you're going to start finding one or two or three or four things that work for you, and you just kind of start replicating it. And it just becomes another source of leads.
Right on. There's obviously a lot of details here we're talking about, and I'm sure a lot of you that are listening is like, whoop, going right through your head. And I encourage you to check out what Clint has put together. He has dived deep into this. He's done his testing. He's got an awesome team that also works with him on this. So for those of you that are want to learn more about this, we'll talk about this at the end of the podcast. But I do encourage you to check it out. But anyways, let's come back. What kind of returns are you expecting from this? This is I guess I'm not sure if I'm phrasing the question correctly here. How much how much should you be expected to spend? And I guess the technical term, really is what's really going to be the cost per lead here? What is it going to? How much money do you have to throw at running ads in order to get a qualified lead, or even to on average to be able to sell a piece of product? I'm sure that it's a very overgeneralized question. I'm looking for an answer like that, but what do you think about that, and what are your thoughts?
Just kind of, general metrics we can talk about. First off, you have to have a mindset. Like, if you go into it with the wrong mindset, you've lost from the start. This isn't something you're going to come in and 14 or 28 days later, you're going to have sold your inventory, right? And the truth is, there is a bit of growing pains when it comes to this. You have to build these audiences. For example, if you had the login and access to my Facebook advertising account, you would have those audiences built up because I've been doing it for a year. But if you are sitting where you are right now and you haven't done that at all, well, that's just a fact of life, and it's going to take some time to build that up, right? So audiences in Facebook Facebook's algorithm, it all takes time to build. So you got to have the right mindset going into it. This is a 6 month, 12-month play, right? So with that in mind, um, and especially not having to waste a ton of money coming out of the gate, kind of starting to learn what works up front, really what you can expect to see is, and this is how I like to kind of think and break it down. We spend about, I would say at the beginning, you would set aside X amount of dollars. I would say you couldn't do it with less than $300 a month. You could set aside, let's say at a minimum, $300 a month. And at first, you'd run 50% of that ad spend towards finding your audiences, kind
Mhm.
of as we've discussed, running videos, running PDFs, running discounts, those kind of things, right? And then you put them in your audience. And then you spend the other half of your $150 or the other half of your 300, $150. You put that ad spend towards running those properties at the people who have viewed your ads, right?
Yeah.
And then the truth is Facebook is good. Like Facebook knows how to find somebody who's interested in your properties, and they will continue getting better as you continue teaching them.
Mhm.
And that's was kind of a broad statement, but basically Facebook is going to learn as you're doing this. They're going to learn every single little thing you're doing, and you are going to start getting better leads. And so we don't only run it to these audiences, but we also just say, hey, Facebook, try and find us some leads, right? Just
Mhm.
for these areas. And we'll basically say, the 3 or 4 major metros around, we'll run it to those areas.
Right.
And little things like that. So we'll put that $150 towards saying, hey, here's our property, push this button, give me your name, phone number, email address, all that kind of stuff, and we'll discuss with you. So that's kind of how we split our ad spend up. Once you start building more audiences up, you'll quickly see that these audiences are in the thousands and thousands of people.
Mhm.
And so we kind of shift those ratios a little bit. I would say you'd go more 25% towards running to a cold audience, saying, hey, are you interested in buying land? Engage with my content, and one of the many ways we talked about. And then you'd spend 75% on showing your properties or signing up for your email list or whatever it may be, right? A little more valuable conversion. You run more money at that.
Right.
Um, and
Right.
so, yeah, I don't think you're going to do it with less than $300 a month. But
Okay.
I think with $300 a month and a 6 to 12 month timeline, you'll start to see results over the long term. Especially because you got to think you're building an email list in the meantime.
Mhm.
You're letting Facebook learn, and you're going to generate a ton of leads, which we'll talk about here in a second. But it does get people coming in the door.
I wanted to back it up a little bit. You said, a good starting point is about $300 a month. What if somebody doesn't have a budget right now? You mentioned earlier they can get started by setting up a pixel on their site. Would you say, that they don't have to run ads, but at that point they're starting to collect and build an audience, right? Would you say that's a good starting point for somebody who wants to get?
If you have money to send mail, you have money to do even a little bit of what's going to foundationally help you build your business, right? So if you have money to mail, i.e., you have money to market, you should put a little bit of money towards marketing on the other side of your business too, even if it's just the beginning, even if it is only $50 a month. Obviously, the pixel, like we said, is very important. It's like copy and paste with WordPress. I'm sure it's like I know I did the training on it. There's a ton of plugins you can use, and it makes it
Yeah.
super simple.
Yeah.
Um, just pop that on there. That's foundation what you need to let Facebook start working for you, right?
Yeah. And,
Past
and so
that, you
can you
can,
sum up quickly what a pixel is again? There's a lot of
yeah.
terminology
So
going on here.
the pixel is the code. It's the mechanism behind the screen, behind your phone, behind your computer that allows Facebook to track which websites you go to. Because whenever you leave their site and you go to another site that has a Facebook pixel on it, it puts a little cookie in your browser, right? And so that sends it back to Facebook and says, hey, Jesse just clicked on this advertising software. He's interested in advertising software, right? And then they start learning about that.
It's all, I always think of it as almost like they're putting a little sticky on you and they're going to follow you around, and that happens with most sites, right? That's why sometimes you go to a site and you see, say you're looking at a shirt on somewhere or even Amazon, and then you see it show up on ads inside of Facebook or whatnot. That's because that site has added a little sticky on you,
Mhm.
and it's stuck with you. And yeah, if some of you guys that are using REI conversion websites, it's super easy to set up your pixel. I've got a link here actually on our blog on how to set up a pixel. You can head over to reiconversion.com/ad-fb dash pixel. So you can check that out as well. Sorry, Clint, I didn't mean to cut you off here, but I wanted to make sure, you know,
Sure.
you know, for those that aren't ready to spend that much, what can they do to get
Yeah.
started? Sorry, go.
Pixel for sure. Pixel for sure. Also, remove the fears of being behind the camera and like putting yourself out there, and you can simply create a couple of these pieces of content, and you could literally run them at $25 a month, right?
Mhm.
And you could get at $25 a month, you could get probably 3,000 more eyeballs than you have right now on your business, your brand, your products. Just that alone will generate a little bit of return, but you'll also start building those audiences up, right? And so like $25 a month. You could literally start that right now, right? And that would be something that you could do.
Yeah. So with $300 a month, is there sort of a general range of leads that you can get out of that? Or, I mean, yeah, is there a general amount of leads that you would think you can get out of that?
Yeah. So once you have it honed in, I would say you're going to average somewhere between $1 and $2 a lead. So, but when I'm saying $1 and $2 a lead, that is on that that portion of your ad spend, right? So let me see if I can simplify that a little bit. If you remember earlier, we talked about like how I would split up your ad spend, right? So let's say that we took that $300 and I'm just going to make it a little simpler and we're going to spend 200 of that on running our properties at people's faces to get leads for, right? We're going to spend $200 on that. You're probably of that $200, once you get things honed in, once you start building some audiences, you're going to look at $1 to $2 a lead, right? So worst case, $2 a lead, you probably get 100 leads that month from running that content. Ballpark, probably a little more.
Got you. Wow, there was a lot covered in here, and we didn't plan for this, Clint, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of a flow chart so everybody can actually visualize what this looks like because, and it might be my fault. I got a little excited here, and I was like jumping from place to place. I love Facebook ads, so I'm going to make that available inside our resource library. If you head over to, I don't have anything right now, and if you go to resource.reiconversion.com, you can drop your name and email in there. By the time this gets published as a podcast, I'll make something available, just sort of summarizing a little bit of what Clint has mentioned.
I
Um,
have a few slides I'd be happy to just send over to you.
yeah.
That
Okay.
probably make a
Awesome.
good
Yeah.
download.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay.
So here I've got one of these captions always pre-made for this. So if you head over to, it's not available right now, but if you once this gets published on iTunes and all the other platforms, YouTube, you can head over to resource.reiconversion.com and grab that from there. Clint, you have all of this training and obviously more, and you're going to dive deeper in on setting up your pixel. You're going to dive deeper in on the type of ads you're going to be running, and perhaps the funnel of how all this looks like. Where can they learn more about this, and where can they find you?
Yeah. Thanks, Jesse. So we do a lot of stuff on our Facebook group. It's Learn Land University. You can just search it on Facebook. You'll find us. And yeah, Jesse, as just mentioned, we have a few courses that go over this. We have our main course is called the Land Funnel Method. It's pretty much how we go from A to Z on building the sales funnel in our business. And at the time of recording this with Jesse, we're kind of doing a little promotion, and so we're going to be adding our new Facebook ad training into that. And so, depending on when you listen to this, that may or may not be applicable. But we are going to have a coupon code for Jesse's listeners. It'll
Yes,
be
I'll pop it
uh,
up here.
yes, REI conversion will be the coupon code, and so that'll get you somewhere around 5 or 10% depending on the promotions that we're running off the course. And so feel free to grab it there. But if you're not looking to deep dive in, we'd love for you to join our Facebook group, Learn Land University. We talk about this stuff all the time over there.
Awesome, awesome. And if you, whoever's watching this at a later time, if you want to leave questions inside our Facebook group as well, this will be posted in there. Clint is always around as well. Clint, am I missing any other thing? I know there's still obviously a lot to dive into when it comes to Facebook ad, but I think this gives people a good understanding of what this is all about, the strategy. And for some of you that already know how to run or have experience running Facebook ad, I encourage you. We have users of REI Conversion who are doing this as well, and they're creating landing pages for running their Facebook ads, and we're also doing Facebook pixeling inside of there as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with the REI conversion website that work hand in hand with a lot of this face with all of this actually Facebook strategy. Um, Clint, am I missing anything else here?
I think that we hit a lot of the high points. What I will say is that, I think fundamentally in your land business, it comes down to marketing, right? You're sending direct mail on the front end to produce your pipeline. That's marketing.
Yep.
The back end of your business needs a marketing focus, right? And if you miss it, the lead flow, the deals, all that kind of stuff slows, in my opinion. And so, I'm pretty pumped about this because we're kind of like, I don't always have this stress of like, is my Facebook Marketplace account going to be banned or something like that, right? It's just, or, it's more scalable, and I definitely think it's a direction that everybody should be looking in their business, whether it's the full ad spend or just running a little bit to kind of start, getting your feet wet with it. It's going to
Yeah.
help you a lot in the long term.
Yeah, it is. It is quite scary. I mean, look what Craigslist did last year, and then suddenly Craigslist opened up again this year, and we're always, and I always talk about this with, especially with building a buyer's list as well. Like, we're going off topic here a little bit, but I just want to stress the importance of not relying on, the bottlenecks. Your
Mhm.
email list is another really, really important thing, and
Oh my God.
that's probably, to me, that's gold. It's probably more important than to actually have your selling website to be able to make an online
Mhm,
payment or something. Like, a lot of people focus on that side of things, where
mhm.
your selling site should be grabbing those leads, should be grabbing those emails, and that's something I always stress. And if you're not doing that, you're really putting your business at risk. And running Facebook ads like this as well. This is looking for different ways to scale and not have to worry about bottlenecks that can.
Mhm.
We don't know what Facebook is going to do. They made some changes
Yeah,
recently. Um, it's just, I mean, hey, listen, I mean, even with running ads, it's this whole special category thing. This was something that was new. This was
yeah.
introduced not too long ago. And I was running ads for a little while, under different categories, but suddenly, oh, we have to. I didn't know why my ads were not working,
Mhm.
and I had to, be part of the special category thing. So, anyways,
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of one thing we talk about a little bit when it comes to how land investors need to be using Facebook ads. Is the goal, put very simply, and for everybody who's listening and not as familiar, there is some regulation, fair housing regulation, basically, that's been passed that says you can't discriminate for any kind of housing opportunity. And so Facebook has to comply with that. And so I don't know that we're like legally like actually fit into that, but there is no getting around it. So
exactly,
there's no getting around it. It's just what we have to do.
yeah.
So the challenge is in what I try and do, and it doesn't always work, but when we create content on for that part of our ad spend that's trying to find a new audience,
Mhm.
we try and not get in the special ad category because you can do so much more targeting. You can say,
Yeah.
I want people who, are 40 or, 40 and older, which I see a lot of my customers are 40 and older. And they're interested in these kinds of brands like Mossy Oak and this hunting and this fishing and all this kind of stuff. And you get really targeted to who would be interested in a piece of land. And then when you go to the special ad category, Facebook says, no, that's discrimination. You can't do that. And so they take all those things away from you. And so part of the I don't know what it is, the sauce or whatever is like trying to figure out how can you get an ad not in the special ad category. And sometimes you'll get one and it'll run really, really well and you'll get like 20-cent leads until Facebook shuts it down. But anyhow,
Yeah, yeah. It's running ads. It's also a learning process, and
oh my gosh, so much.
I've been doing it for a long time now, and it's ever evolving. So, um, continue. Everything that we do, we got to continue to educate ourselves and continue to figure out what's going on. And the community and all these Facebook groups for land, I think, have been overall really, really welcoming. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but just a sort of a feel good message at the end here. Clint, thanks again for coming onto the podcast. We sort of hit our 30-minute mark here, and I hope that you guys are listening, got a lot out of this. We'll have the resource, the download. I guess Clint will share some of his slides, and we'll put it up on resource.reiconversion.com. retargeting.com for you guys to download. All right. Thanks very much for watching, guys. And Clint, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Finn. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, cheers. Before you stop this podcast or head to the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Conversion Podcast. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate an awesome review and rating on whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the REI Conversion Podcast or this specific episode that may help them on their investing journey. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.